Notebook LM by Google AI proudly presents
Every hero is connected. Across time, across ages.
Every day rewrite your history. Every step you take defines your legacy.
You're listening to the Timeless Heroes, Timeless Podcast, where we take a deep dive at the story, the characters, the lore, and the world building of the most ambitious sci-fi novel series, Timeless Heroes. Every hero is connected, across time, across ages.
The pages of history.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're undertaking what is probably our most intense and psychologically complex exploration yet.
I think that's fair to say.
We're tracing the lineage of a single foundational trauma.
Exactly, a trauma that became a weapon.
And that's our focus, right? This devastatingly corrosive relationship, what the sources call the toxic triangle between Jace, Hunt, and Colton.
That's right. Our mission today is to really understand not just what happened, but the deep, deep psychological damage these events inflicted.
And how it spirals, starting in high school, long before the prequel.
And then poisoning their time at the FBI Academy during the prequel itself.
And from there, it just sets the stage for this catastrophic, literally time-bending fallout that's predicted for the main series.
It's a perfect storm. The narrative here is a masterclass in how these really personal demons can escalate into, global or even temporal warfare.
It's wild. We're dealing with rivalry, power dynamics, emotional abuse, sexual assault, and just the crushing weight of this one secret that's shared between these three young men.
And what's so fascinating and so tragic is how the violation of personal boundaries, it becomes the very foundation for this, temporary toxic power structure that Jace and Hunt build.
The Blackmailed Pact.
The Blackmailed Pact. This isn't a story where the secret just stays buried. I mean, it's a story where the secret literally becomes the engine of destruction.
And it's all fueled by this unaddressed trauma and ego.
Completely.
The stakes feel so incredibly intimate and personal, even as the story spirals out into superhuman abilities and timeless magic.
But that's the key, isn't it? We have to see how one horrific, humiliating event becomes the trigger for everything that follows. It's the ultimate illustration of how deep personal pain. It just warps ambition, demands control, and at the end of the day, it seeks revenge.
Regardless of the consequences for reality itself. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start right at the beginning, at the genesis of this entire conflict, tracing it back to high school.
Before the prequel even begins.
Right. We start with Jace and Colton. They're both juniors. And the source material paints a very clear picture of that initial social dynamic. Colton was, he was the undisputed king of the castle.
He was the most popular guy, the alpha, the center of gravity in their entire social world.
And this is so crucial for understanding Colton's psychology, right? His whole identity was completely wrapped up in that status.
It wasn't just, I'm popular. It was, this is my inherent right. I am dominant. He's a creature of entitlement.
And he was completely unprepared for any kind of disruption.
And then the disruption arrives.
In the form of Jace, a new transfer student.
Right. Jace is the new transfer student. And the key thing is his popularity isn't forced. It's not something he works for like Colton. It's just natural.
Sure, charismatic, bit of a flirt, a thrill seeker, and all that attention Colton was soaking up, it just immediately shifts to the new guy.
And for Colton, that's not just an insult. It's a fundamental challenge to his worldview.
Suddenly, all that social attention, that spotlight that Colton had always just bathed in, it shifts entirely.
It just moves over to the new guy.
And that establishes this immediate, just visceral rivalry, a turf war.
It's an instantaneous loss of control for Colton. I mean, think about it. Jace didn't just compete with him. He essentially erased him socially, just by existing.
So the dynamic escalates right away, because for Colton, Jace's popularity wasn't like an annoyance.
No, it was a fundamental threat to his ego, to his entire sense of self-worth.
Then the rivalry intensifies, and it gets personal. A third person enters the frame, Ms. D.V. Stella Larson.
Described as Colton's crush, the hot librarian and calculus TA.
So now the competition moves from just social standing
to conquest, yeah. It ties dominance directly to sexual status, and the source material is explicit about this. Jace successfully captures her attention. They have sex, and Colton is secretly watching the whole thing happen.
But here's the kicker. Jace, being the showman and the provocateur that he is, he notices Colton watching. And his response isn't to hide or to be ashamed. He leans into the taunt.
He responds with a deliberate, taunting wink.
The audacity.
I mean, can you even imagine? Think about what that does. Jace isn't just stealing Colton's crush. He is confirming Colton's powerlessness in that moment.
He's turning him into a passive, impotent voyeur.
Exactly. And for Colton, that is the ultimate defeat. It's public. It's personal.
It's not just losing a girl. It's being completely supplanted in the social order by a guy who wasn't even trying. One act. It just validates Jace's complete takeover of Colton's alpha position.
It's a public humiliation, and it's a private one. And for a personality like Colton's, humiliation it's intolerable. It's the trigger.
It's the trigger for violence. That brings us to the first confrontation and the beginning of this awful sexual assault cycle.
Colton confronts Jace shortly after the incident. He's demanding some kind of, I don't know, deference or an apology.
And Jace, being Jace, he just, hot-headed, maybe a little reckless. He taunts him. He pokes the bear.
And that taunt is the trigger. It is absolutely not a justification. We have to be clear about that.
Absolutely not.
But it's what sets Colton off.
Yeah.
And his response is a fit of just criminal rage. It results in the first sexual assault against Jace.
And it's so important to understand what that is. It wasn't about desire.
Not at all. It was about dominance, punishment. It was about reasserting control, physically and psychologically.
It wasn't about desire.
Not at all. And it's followed by that chilling warning. Never cross me again.
We have to analyze the psychology there. The jump from a social rivalry to physical violation is so shockingly fast.
It is. Colton is using the most devastating tool he has, non-consensual power, to reestablish his dominance. He's putting Jace back in his place.
And for Jace, this isn't just a physical attack.
No, it's a profound act of humiliation. It's designed to strip away all of that newfound confidence and just reduce him back to being helpless.
And that single event that becomes the psychological trauma that Jace spends, the next decade of his life denying?
Exactly. He masks it with bravado, with hypervigilance, with this compulsive need for self-control and self-reliance. It's his core rule now. If I am in control, I can never be helpless again.
That denial, that refusal to even acknowledge vulnerability, that is the thread we see pull through his entire story, all the way to Quantico.
Precisely. That assault immediately sets up a predatory power dynamic that's way beyond simple bullying. Colton learned he could completely dismantle Jace with violence, and Jace learned that seeking dominance could come at the highest possible personal cost.
But this toxic dynamic, it's not just between Jace and Colton. It expands.
It does. It includes Hunt, who was a sophomore at the time.
Colton had been relentlessly bullying Hunt for years, since Hunt's sophomore year, often targeting his intelligence or his shy demeanor.
And the sources mention that this all culminated in an unforgivable emotional act.
Which they keep vague.
They keep the specifics shielded, yeah. But the impact is crystal clear. It was so severe, it drove Hunt to attempt suicide. This detail is crucial. It tells you everything you need to know about the nature of Colton's cruelty. It wasn't just random teasing.
No, this was deliberate, calculated psychological warfare,
aimed at completely destroying Hunt's will to live. The nature of that unforgivable emotional act, whatever it was, it highlights that Colton's abuse is designed to achieve total psychological submission.
And that submission is what Jace interrupts.
Right. Jace finds out what happened only after he unwillingly stopped Hunt from suicide. That moment is so critical.
It confirms the depth of the abuse.
And at the same time, it reveals Jace's innate protective nature. It was almost accidental heroism. Jace didn't plan to save Hunt, but his intervention just cemented this inseparable protective bond between them.
So when Jace realizes the full scope of what's happening to Hunt, that protective instinct just takes over. He knows he has to face Colton again.
He sets up a meeting with Hunt at the football field. He says it's to hang out, but really, he's going there to confront Colton about the abuse.
He is consciously stepping back into the exact danger zone that traumatized him.
It reinforces that core protective nature of Jace. Hunt is Jace's anchor, and Jace is Hunt's emotional shield. He's willing to risk physical violation again to save Hunt's psychological well-being.
And this is where Jace's need to be the badass man of justice really begins. Not with a badge, but with protecting the one person he truly cares about.
And this is where it gets
really interesting, because the stage is now set for the second and far more significant confrontation. Jace gets to the football field. He sees Colton. And even though he knows the immense danger, He confronts him about how he's been treating Hunt.
And Colton, true to form, true to his pattern of using violation to reinforce dominance whenever he's challenged.
He reacts in a fit of rage. Again.
The sources emphasize this second assault was committed in the most humiliating way possible.
If the first time was about dominance.
The second time was purely about psychological submission. Colton was punishing Jace not just for challenging him, but for daring to protect someone he saw as disposable.
Wow.
The goal was to break Jace completely.
And that intensity of the humiliation is so key, isn't it?
Yeah.
It ties directly back to Jace's later need for absolute control. To be humiliated is to be exposed, vulnerable, helpless.
All the things he spends the rest of his life fighting against. But then... then we get the moment that just warps their entire reality forever. The twist.
Hunt, who was supposed to be meeting Jace there.
He arrives, and he witnesses the entire assault.
He doesn't just witness it. In a moment of just desperate protective instinct, he records the entire thing on his phone.
And that is a profound shift in power. Hunt, the long-term victim of Colton's emotional abuse, suddenly holds existential leverage over his abuser.
Everything changes in that moment.
It does. The trauma is now a commodity. And Jace, immediately recognizing that power shift, the one thing he didn't lose in that moment was his quick mind. He uses Hunt's video.
He blackmails Colton. And the terms of the pact are so specific, they tie Colton's future behavior directly to Jacen Hunt's social lives.
Colton has to immediately stop bullying Hunt. And he is forced to actively work to make both Jace and Hunt popular.
Or the video goes public.
And the sources confirm, since that pact, the secret has stayed buried. Colton was forced to comply.
We have to spend some time on the moral complexity of this, though.
We do, because the trauma of that essay is instantly weaponized. They don't seek justice through, the police or school officials. They seek leverage. They seek temporary power.
And that action, it transforms Jacen Hunt into controllers. They get safety and status.
But at the expense of accountability. And that temporary power comes at an astronomical cost.
They're now forever bound to their perpetrator, to Colton, through fear and, complicity and silence.
Exactly. They traded true justice for a very fragile social structure. And the irony is just tragic. Jace's trauma response is this drive for control, and he finds it by using his own violation as a bargaining chip.
The move saves Hunt's life and gives Jace this false sense of control over Colton.
But it forces Colton into years of performative obedience. He had to play nice with Hunt. He had to elevate his rivals.
And that doesn't heal Colton's rage.
No, it curdles it. It curdles it into this profound long-term desire for revenge over his lost status and reputation. He was reduced to a pawn.
And that forced humiliation from the blackmail, that's the toxic fuel that powers his decisions years later at Quantico and beyond.
Absolutely. That secret pact, built on violation and sustained by fear, is the core wound that defines the entire series. It ensures that when they inevitably cross paths again, the conflict will be devastating.
Because Colton's revenge won't be about some minor slight.
No, it'll be about restoring the self-image that Jacen Hunt destroyed with that video.
That analysis really highlights the sheer weight of what they carry forward from that moment. A secret that big, that toxic, it doesn't just sit there.
It actively shapes them, their personalities, their ambitions, their interactions for years to come.
We've just gone through some incredibly heavy material detailing these criminal acts. And before we move forward to Quantico, we have to stop. We have to take a moment and really address the seriousness of what the source material is describing.
This is vital. We have to be absolutely unequivocally clear on this. Colton Hayes' actions were criminal. They were abusive. And absolutely nothing Jace did, taunting him, his relationship with the TA, nothing justifies or excuses that violence.
Consent is mandatory. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And it was completely absent in every single one of Colton's actions. And I think what the narrative does so powerfully is it shows Jace, this tough, aspiring, badass man of justice, as a victim.
Yes.
And that is so important. It shows that victims of sexual assault come from all backgrounds, all genders, all sexualities. It just shatters that harmful stereotype that there's only one type of victim.
Assault is about power. It's about dominance and violence. It is never about desire. And the story uses it as the core mechanism of control. We see the effects of that trauma in Jace's life, not just psychologically, but literally imprinted onto his reality with those temporal anomalies later on.
Right. The trauma didn't go away just because they buried the secret. It became a liability, a trigger that could be weaponized against him, which is exactly what we're about to see. And understanding that Jace is a survivor is it's essential to understanding his entire journey.
And for anyone listening, we have to provide resources. If you or someone you know has been affected by sexual violence, please know that help is available.
We want to share this resource very clearly. RAINN, that's RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, operates a 24/7 sexual assault hotline. The number is 1-800-656-4673. Please use that resource if you need it. Again, that's 1-800-656-4673. Help is available, it is confidential, and it is completely judgment-free.
And if you are struggling with a mental health crisis, if you're experiencing thoughts of self-harm, or you just simply need someone to talk to, you can call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
Just those three numbers, 988. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please remember that you are not alone, you are a survivor, and help is always within reach.
Okay, we are now officially transitioning directly into spoiler territory.
This is the big warning.
The following discussion is going to cover major plot points in the prequel, TH0, and in the subsequent books in the main series, so TH1 through TH4. If you wish to avoid future plot developments and really preserve the experience of reading these books fresh, now is the moment to pause this deep dive.
But if you want to continue, if you want to see how this high school hellscape reappears with federal power and threatens the very timeline,
then let's do it. Let's proceed and track the resurgence of this feud at Quantico.
Okay, so we jump forward several years. We're in the prequel, Jacen Ryder's FBI adventure at Quantico. Jace, now Jacen Ryder's an NYPD rookie, he's secured a spot at the FBI Academy.
And his goal is noble, right? He wants to be the badass man of justice. His father, who was a 9/11 victim, would have been proud of. He's seeking structure, accountability.
A heroic path. He's directly trying to move past the helplessness he felt in high school.
This is Jace attempting to compensate for the trauma by seeking external validation of control. He wants to be the shield, the professional, the person who can't be touched.
And then, of course, fate intervenes with a terrible sense of irony.
Colton Hayes is also there, a fellow FBI trainee.
A cruel, high-stakes, unwilling reunion, and the sources note he's a junior-year equivalent, so he's close to graduating and entering the field. The blood feud that was temporarily suppressed by blackmail, it just reignites instantly.
The dynamics are entirely changed, though. This isn't a social turf war anymore.
No, this is a professional one. And losing here means losing your dream career.
Jace notes Colton's physical presence, the steely blue eyes, the football player body, that air of authority, and his own visceral, instant hatred. He thinks, God, I hated his guts. And I still do.
The high school blackmail stopped the physical violence, but as we talked about, Colton just shifts his approach.
The feud is now entirely psychological. It's centered on testing Jace's self-control and his ambition. Colton knows Jace's weak point.
The denial of his victimhood, and that compulsive need for emotional regulation.
In the hallowed halls of federal law enforcement training, physical violence is career suicide. So Colton has to use psychological tools. His goal is to force Jace to fail by making him react violently.
To prove to Jace, and more importantly to the Bureau, that Jace is fundamentally unstable and unfit to serve.
It's a targeted campaign of professional destruction, and it's rooted in the high school ego revenge.
And that campaign comes to a head during a mandatory training drill. Colton knows exactly how to push Jace's buttons.
He provokes him relentlessly, trying to throw him off mentally, ruin his focus on the exercise.
And this is where the dark secret is explicitly weaponized in this new context. The provocation escalates until Colton delivers that infamous taunt, which is captured by the FBI's overhead audio monitoring.
Jeff taunt. You gonna admit it yet? Or do I have to fuck it out of you?
That line is just devastating, because it's a direct reference to the high school SA trauma.
It's about the violation and the demand for submission. He's weaponizing Jace's past helplessness and his current denial in a public professional setting. It's calculated cruelty.
And the psychological impact is instant and exactly what Colton intended. Jace loses control, he snaps.
Resulting in violence, a blow so severe it's captured on the audio and noted by Director Briggs. This loss of composure, this hair-triggered temper is exactly what Colton wanted.
That Jace is instantly flagged as a liability. He's almost dismissed from the Bureau. His dream is just hanging by a thread.
Director Briggs intervenes. He pulls Jace into his office, and Briggs is highly perceptive. He tells Jace he knows about the blood feud, and crucially, that Colton knows Jace's off switch.
Briggs demands context. He asks for the reason behind this violent, career-ending reaction.
But here we see the tragic manifestation of Jace's trauma. That self-reliance compulsion kicks right in. He refuses to give Briggs the context that would save his career.
He holds fast to his denial. He says, "I'm not a victim, sir. I handle my own problems."
That is a defense mechanism born directly from the humiliating essay. He would rather fail his father's memory and lose his life's dream than be perceived by this authority figure as weak, victimized, or helpless.
His inability to be seen as a victim is what prevents his immediate dismissal, but it places him on zero-tolerance probation.
Briggs respects his decision to handle his own problems, but he issues this chilling warning. He says, if you let him provoke another animal reaction out of you, you aren't just failing yourself, you're proving him right. You're proving you're done.
This is the ultimate bind, right? Jace has to choose between enduring psychological torture and validating Colton's assessment that he's unstable.
His trauma, manifesting as this need for absolute control, is now severely jeopardizing his entire professional life. It proves Colton's strategy of psychological warfare was far more effective than high school violence ever was.
And the fact that Briggs uses the word animal just reinforces the dehumanizing nature of Colton's provocation. So, reeling from this near dismissal and this devastating attack, Jace finally calls Hunt. He breaks the news over the phone from Quantico, reluctantly admitting that his nightmare, Colton, is his fellow cadet.
The sources show Hunt's initial reaction is just tense silence, and then explosive anger when he realizes Colton almost destroyed Jace's dream.
It instantly reaffirms Hunt's role as Jace's unwavering emotional anchor. He's ready to deploy that protective instinct that saved them in high school.
And this anger leads to a critical disclosure about the secret. Hunt admits the obvious. I needed leverage, confirming he recorded the essay on his phone. He says he considered taking it to the police,
but conceded that Jace's blackmail idea was the best move ever for high school survival.
This just reinforces the deeply toxic but also fundamentally protective nature of their bond, and Hunt immediately suggests deploying the nuclear option,
sending the video to Director Briggs to get Colton dismissed.
For Hunt, the video isn't just leverage anymore, it's a weapon to defend Jace's future.
But Jace stops him.
He does. Having just been warned by Briggs about needing to handle his problems professionally, Jace believes the FBI's own surveillance can find dirt on Colton without them having to use the past trauma.
He's determined to handle Colton himself, professionally. Without resorting to the toxic leverage that originally bound them, he wants to move past the blackmail.
And that's a monumental decision for Jace. He is trying to break the cycle of using trauma for control. He's choosing the professional, ethical high ground, or what he thinks is the high ground, over the easy button of blackmail.
The irony, of course, is that by refusing to use the video, he leaves Colton in place to pursue his own dark machinations,
which are now intertwined with the secret, sinister workings of the FBI Academy itself.
So by trying to find professional dirt on Colton, Jace inadvertently gets drawn into the world of the NeuroSync project. We should probably pause and clarify what exactly Jace walked into.
We should.
So Project NeuroSync is this illicit, highly experimental research initiative. It's run by a shadowy firm called Erebus Analytics, which has secretly infiltrated the FBI's infrastructure.
And what's their goal?
Their goal is to tap into something called timeless magic residue. It's basically a sixth-dimensional energy that permeates space-time.
And how do they tap into it?
Through advanced and often lethal magnetic injections and implanted computer processors. It's incredibly dangerous stuff.
And Jace, because he cheated death and has been experiencing these temporal anomalies, he's basically a walking antenna for this energy.
He's an accidental but absolutely vital test subject, a conduit, which makes him a target.
Which brings us to the end of the prequel. Jace is taken captive, and the sources confirm this was orchestrated by Colton, of course, but also by a high-level FBI staff member.
And this is the part that's so devastating for Jace. He notes in the source material that it was someone he trusted her the most.
This dual betrayal by his high school tormentor and a trusted mentor figure, it just completely destroys Jace's belief in the institution he came to for justice.
And this is Colton's moment. The ultimate verbal and physical revenge.
It is. He's now working directly on Operation NeuroSync, and he confesses his true enduring motivation. It wasn't just about the assault. It was about Jace ruining his high school life and reducing him to a pawn in their blackmail alliance.
So for Colton, Jace's control over him, the secret, the forced popularity, the constant threat of that video, that was a fate far worse than any punishment or exposure.
It was a living hell for him. And then the betraying staff member, she lays out the barbaric, technical details of their plan for Jace.
She explains that the NSCI radiation he's absorbed is volatile, and that it's literally eating holes in his reality. They see him as this catastrophic self-destructive force that needs to be stabilized or neutralized.
And their stabilization plan is just horrifyingly invasive. It involves injecting Jace with something called gamma ray condensate,
which the source describes as pure liquid light.
Pure liquid light, and then surgically implanting a synthetic diamond processor directly into his brainstem. The stated goal is to stabilize and control his powers.
But she admits, just chillingly, that if the experiment fails, it will result in his immediate death. This is state-sanctioned experimentation. It's attempted murder.
It is, and Jace is heavily sedated, he's strapped down, and he's facing either death or complete irreversible control.
Now, let's just pause here without spoiling the rest of the prequel for you, the listeners.
Knowing that this is a prequel to the main series, we can all assume one thing.
He survived, but he's forever changed. And he carries his trauma, his enhanced powers, and that unresolved toxic history with Colton straight into the main series.
So, Jace has escaped, forever altered and literally powered by his trauma. Colton, meanwhile, he just vanishes by the end of the prequel.
But his story is far from over. That disappearance is only temporary.
Indeed. The sources suggest that the high school toxic secret, the neurosync conspiracy, and the FBI's internal corruption, they're all set to collide in the main timeline.
Rumor has it that by book 2 or 3, Colton will surprisingly re-emerge, having somehow navigated the fallout to achieve an almost impossible promotion.
Director of the FBI.
Director of the FBI.
That elevation is so profoundly symbolic, it suggests that the themes of corruption and truth suppression are central to the future narrative.
To become director after being involved in the NeuroSync project, a kidnapping, and having a history of violence and abuse, it implies the Bureau itself is actively complicit in a massive cover-up.
The perpetrator doesn't just get away, he reaches the pinnacle of authority.
And not only that, he also becomes a powerful time-breaker because of his exposure to the NeuroSync tech at Quantico. This just elevates the personal vendetta to cosmic stakes.
Colton, the bully driven by ego, now wields volatile, dangerous abilities that can manipulate time.
And the elevation of the villain means that Secret is definitely not safe.
The personal feud has now fully infected the executive level of federal law enforcement.
And the final damning piece of Colton's corruption is uncovered by Cassie. After digging further, with Jacen Hunt's permission, she discovers the worst crime of all.
Colton admits to murdering the former director Briggs.
The very man who showed Jace mercy, who recognized the blood feud. He was eliminated by Colton.
And the cover-up was chillingly simple. Colton framed the death as the act of a disgruntled academy cadet, possibly referencing Jace or Matt. It demonstrates his willingness to sacrifice absolutely anyone to secure his power.
Then Jace discovers the horrifying truth about his own status. Because of that illegal NeuroSync operation at Quantico, which involved federal resources, he is technically considered FBI property.
The sources describe him as a hot commodity on the black market.
This is the ultimate sick irony. Jace, who sought justice for his father through the FBI, is now literally an asset, a piece of stolen intellectual property, valued for the neurological enhancements he survived.
And the sources mention a major client ready to make a purchase. Amir Black, a figure linked to the 9/11 planners, which is the very event that drove Jace to the FBI in the first place.
Colton, basking in his power, initially wants to keep Jace. He calls him his toy. But Jace, ever the reckless strategist seeking vengeance, proposes this twisted deal that Colton sells him to Amir Black instead.
It's just. It shows Jace's willingness to put himself in extreme danger to settle the score for his father and the genesis of his entire identity shift. It's a high-stakes, self-sacrificing move.
And the sources also give us this brief, unsettling glimpse into Colton's public life at this point. He has a wife and a baby girl who know absolutely nothing of his predation, his murders, his corruption.
His whole life is a meticulous performance of institutional and domestic virtue, built entirely on lies.
The toxicity has reached critical mass. The secret, the original trauma, is about to be weaponized by a completely unexpected source. The nuke protocol is finally executed, but not by Hunt.
No. A man named Nathan Voss, a rogue operative trying to steal the NeuroSync project data from the FBI server, he hacks into it. But instead of finding what he sought, he stumbles upon Hunt's recorded video of Colton assaulting Jace from high school.
And Voss is immediately triggered by the footage. His fury is reignited because his baby sister was a victim of sexual assault and tragically died by suicide due to the actions of her husband.
So the video becomes a mirror of his own unresolved trauma and rage. He doesn't hesitate. He leaks the video to CNN, launching the entire toxic history into the public sphere.
His motivation is clear. He wants the entire nation to rally around Jace, to recognize him as a survivor, and to launch an immediate, uncompromising manhunt for Colton.
And the public reaction is massive. The trauma that Jace hid for years is now exposed, but it doesn't destroy him. It validates him. The national rally confirms Jace's status as a survivor and a hero.
It leads to the President of the United States announcing Jace's full pardon for all charges related to the stolen files and Project QC.
And this public exposure finally causes Colton's immediate and total collapse. The sources describe him being confronted by his own family, including his pastor father, over the horrific video leak.
Colton's public virtue, the very foundation of his institutional protection, it just evaporates in an instant.
And in a final desperate and utterly shocking act of violence, Colton murders his own father in front of his family. The man who represented his moral authority and institutional access is eliminated as Colton spirals completely into madness and total loss.
Now, completely unhinged, with nothing left, Colton vows ultimate revenge. He utilizes the temporal anomalies created by Project QC, or maybe his own exposure to the neurosync Tectos time travel.
His target is young Jace. Back in high school, he intends to kill him, erasing the original catalyst for all his misery.
Hunt tracks Colton to the Nexus Point, leading to a final, violent battle to protect Jace and save the timeline. It's during this confrontation that Colton stabs Jace before Hunt, with the assistance of others, finally confronts and defeats this weaponized predator.
This whole arc is just staggering when you trace it back. It starts with a reckless wank and schoolyard humiliation.
Yeah.
And it escalates through 2 acts of sexual assault, years of blackmail, institutional corruption, murder, illegal human experimentation, and ends with the attempted undoing of reality itself, all rooted in the same toxic dynamic.
We absolutely must take a necessary pause here. As we've just spent extensive time detailing, this source material is profoundly marked by themes of sexual assault, attempted suicide, and deep, lasting trauma. We've covered Jace's specific trauma, Hunt's reaction, and the devastating impact of SA on Nathan Voss's family.
This is a move from fiction to the vital real world. It is crucial to acknowledge the gravity of these themes. Sexual assault is a serious crime with profound, lasting effects on survivors and those close to them. We must be absolute unequivocal. Sexual assault is never the victim's fault. If these themes have been difficult or triggering for you, or if you are dealing with similar feelings, help is available right now.
We want to provide you with vital, real-world information and resources. We'll read these clearly and slowly.
If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs immediate support, please call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 988. This service is available 24/7.
If you or someone you know has been affected by sexual assault, please call the 4AN247 Sexual Assault Hotline. That number is 1-800-656-4673. Again, that is 1-800-656-4673. Please seek support if you need it.
So now that we have charted this deeply complicated, devastating history, what does this all mean in the broader context of the narrative?
This saga is a horrifying illustration of how deeply personal trauma, when it's left unresolved, hidden, and then leveraged for institutional power, can spiral out of control and destabilize not just individual lives, but entire federal agencies and, as we saw it, the very fabric of space-time.
The central insight has to be the cycle of consequence that's driven by secrecy and power. Colton's intense, deep-seated jealousy and his need for control leads to the sexual assaults.
Right, and Jace's protective instincts lead him to leverage that trauma through toxic blackmail.
But that blackmail video, the ultimate nuke, it doesn't end the conflict when Jace planned for it to. It only detonates when an external force, Voss, triggered by his own parallel trauma, forces it into the public eye.
And by the time the truth is exposed, Colton has already committed murder, institutionalized corruption, and illegal human experimentation. The secrecy poisoned every single decision along the way.
Think about it. The FBI director knew they had a blood feud, yet the institution failed to prevent the escalation. Jace, keeping the neurosync procedure secret from Hunt, nearly cost them Project QC and fundamentally damaged Hunt's trust. The secrets were truly the engine of the chaos that ripped space-time apart.
Let's spend a moment considering Jace's starting point, because the source material provides a crucial detail about his identity that we haven't touched on much.
Right, his name.
His birth name was Takashi Riskio Yoshida Demencio. He changed it to Jacen Riders at age 13, immediately following his father Henri's death on 9/11. He deliberately buried his past identity to pursue justice under a new name and a new mission.
That suggests the genesis of Jace's entire adult persona is rooted in the trauma of 9/11 and the perceived failure of the system to deliver justice for his father. Changing his name wasn't just a practical decision, it was a psychological foundation. He became a man designed to seek justice and protect others.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Given that Jace was attempting to time travel back to 9/11 at the start of Book 3, the very event that drove him to fundamentally change who he was, what unresolved burden was Jace carrying that made him believe he had to go back and alter the foundation of his own identity and his own destiny?
It's a huge question. He had become the badass man of justice. He had defeated the central villain. He'd been pardoned by the president. And yet, the ultimate goal wasn't just to win in the present. It was to undo the very personal tragedy that set him on this path in the first place.
Was the cost of his identity change too high? Or did he realize that the institutional justice he sought simply didn't exist, forcing him to seek temporal intervention as the only real solution?
The search for justice, or perhaps the escape from the identity born of that tragedy, seems to be a wound so deep that even gaining temporal powers couldn't heal it. It suggests that for all the cosmic chaos they endured, the deepest conflict remains Jace's internal struggle with destiny and his own past.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the corrosive history and the profound costs of the feud between Jace, Hunt, and Colton. We encourage you to explore the source materials and concepts we discussed today further.
Until next time, stay curious.